Hi, I'm Lucille, functional health practitioner and spiritual coach. I help people heal their bodies through functional lab testing, looking into gut and hormone imbalances to seek the root cause. This is the Vital Energy Podcast, and here we will be exploring topics related to health, science, and spirituality. Let's get into it. Hi, and welcome back to episode 2 of Vital Energy Podcast. I'm super excited to dive into today's topic, which is all about generational trauma. What is generational trauma? How do we heal generational trauma? So to start off, I'm going to talk briefly about what generational trauma really is, because this word gets thrown around quite often and it can easily be forgotten what the true meaning of the word is. So generational trauma in its essence is something that truly affects every last one of us. It is a consolidation of all of the lived experiences of our ancestors that it has been passed down to us essentially through our DNA. A lot of generational trauma is transferred to us through our DNA, whereas some of this trauma is conditioned in early childhood through our personal lived experiences, how we see our parents interact with their lives, how we witness our parents deal with their stress, how we see our parents in relationship with themselves, with each other, and with the world. This early childhood development really forms and shapes the way that we learn how to navigate through this world. And when our parents are not doing full emotional self-regulation, when they are experiencing the effects of their generational trauma because they saw how their parents navigated through the world, how their parents used their survival instincts, and certain ideas are ingrained into them as how they should behave, what's expected of them, what they should expect of themselves. As this occurs, we begin to mimic them and model our own behaviors, our own responses after theirs. So it's a combination of code that we inherit in our DNA that goes back quite literally to the dawn of time. DNA is essentially, it is code. It is essentially binary code that is written into our biology. It is how our body knows how to grow into arms and legs and fingernails and hair, and it is how we know how to pick things up and eat and breastfeed when we're born. It's how the sea turtles know where to swim out into the ocean once they've hatched. DNA stores divinely intelligent memory. This is almost like your memory chip or your SIM card. It contains this amazing encrypted information. And all of that information stores not only instructions for how to move, how to function, but also how to survive. And various modes of survival have been used throughout millennia for our ancestors to be able to continue the bloodline. And all of that information, all of that survival-based information is encrypted into your DNA. So I really can't emphasize enough how DNA is such an incredible part, an incredible aspect of the generational experiences, the generational trauma that we have embodied today. And generational trauma, it affects us in so many different ways, but I like to break it down and categorize it into 3 sort of separate areas. Generational trauma affects your emotional well-being. It affects the way that you experience emotions in your life, the way you respond emotionally to things. And your emotions really form your personality, who you are, how you move through this life, how you act in social environments, in relationships. The other area that generational trauma really affects us is our mental body. So our mental body is how we perceive circumstances, how we think, what kind of thought processes we use to calculate our lives, what kind of thought processes we respond with, how we think about ourselves, how we think about others, and how we work our way through logic as we strategize how we're going to move through our lives. And the third area where we are so strongly impacted by generational trauma, both from our lived early child experiences, but also incredibly potently from our DNA, is our physical body. Our physical body is impacted in so many different areas. Just briefly, to sort of cover a few of these areas, your fear response, fear in general, which is such a major aspect to generational trauma, it releases hormones that communicate to your body disharmony. It releases the stress hormones, the fight or flight hormones. And when these hormones are released, your organs don't perform as well. Your digestion slows down. Your body stops repairing itself. And you are basically catapulted into survival mode. So because of that, this generational trauma and this fear-based response really has massive impacts on our immune systems. Our immune systems do not function well under chronic stress, under severe stress. Our immune systems are really suppressed when we are releasing these stress, fear-based hormones. Another way that our bodies are physically impacted is our digestion. Our digestion does not function as well when we are in a state of survival mode or in a state of fear, stress, anxiety, or worry. And because of this, we are unable to really access the nutrients that we would like to get from our food. And another aspect to this in the digestive system in particular is the gut microbiome. And the gut microbiome is really it's something that is massively impacted by stress hormones, but it's also something that is, it's seated within us through the birthing process. So the microbiome that your mother had at the time of your birth and leading up to your birth is extremely impactful on the microbiome that you are then given to start your life off with. And your mother's immune system is highly responsible for transferring very important antibodies to the infant through breastfeeding. Actually, one really interesting fact about breastfeeding is that the mother's milk actually has intelligence in it. And when the child is feeding, the the mother's breast milk changes and adjusts according to what the child in their saliva is signaling what they need to begin to grow and build their immune system. And that immunity is transferred from mother to child at that time. And other ways that immunity is transferred from mother to child is via the placenta. We have IgG antibodies that cross over the placenta when the child is in gestation. And this is also another way that your mother's generational trauma, which may have affected, which did affect her immune system, is transferred directly to your immune system when you are born. And your immune system, aspects of it, will in turn transfer to your child. So this is one way in which generational trauma is passed down in the physiological sense. The immune system, the gut microbiome, and it is all highly linked in and connected to the fear response and survival mode. So these are just some examples of how your physical body is impacted by generational trauma. And there are plenty of other ways that physically and scientifically this inherited trauma will affect the body. And I will be going more into that in my upcoming 6-week program, Sacred Mother Mastermind, which is an online program I'm running starting August 14th with an intimate group of women, where we will be really diving into generational trauma, how it has affected us individually, and how we can begin to heal. And we're going to be working together to heal our hormones, which is such an important aspect to healing from generational trauma. Our hormones are essentially the messengers that communicate thoughts and feelings to our body, and they are also the messengers that communicate the instructions for all of our cells and organs and how they should act and function and perform within our body. So that is one of the foundations for healing from generational trauma, is addressing your hormonal health. Because if you're experiencing emotional overwhelm, emotional trauma, worry, stress, fear, anxiety, all of these emotions and feelings are tied into hormonal responses that have been ingrained into your body for generations and for your entire life. So this is one aspect to healing, and doing this work can really begin to open women up to healing their bodies physically from all kinds of chronic diseases, from infertility, and really begin to open you up as a channel to begin receiving deep healing that is meant not only for you, but as part of the healing for the entire collective that we're in right now. So I will be going more into that in Sacred Mother Mastermind, where I will be one of the workshops that I will be hosting during that 6-week mastermind is called The Anatomy of Generational Trauma, where I will go a little more deeply into the different areas where we are affected physiologically and what the scientific breakdown of that really looks like. Another aspect of generational trauma that I really just wanted to brush on is something that I refer to as birth trauma. And I don't mean birth trauma for the mother. What I'm referring to is trauma via certain birthing practices that traumatically affects the baby during its birthing process. In our modern medical world, the way that birth is viewed and dealt with is extremely forceful, extremely rushed. It is very quickly drug-induced, and they're really working on a timeline. They are working to make a bottom line financial gain for the hospital. They are working to avoid any complications, of course. because of their own personal liability, they will tend to make hasty decisions when the mother and the baby may not be ready to induce labor, when in time, if there was trust and love and connection between mother and child and birthing practitioner, that the baby, there is really a divine intelligence at play there. However, we are so inundated with fear around birth and around what could possibly happen, always assuming the worst, always thinking about the worst. And once again, these codes of fear, they signal to our body's disharmony, and when that occurs, there will be disharmony in the birthing process. I'm going to go into this much more deeply in my next episode. It's going to be all about birth trauma, so that is definitely an aspect to how generational trauma is affecting us now. If our parents were born in the 50s, especially, birthing practices were really extreme at that time, and they still are very extreme to this day in different ways. And that has affected our entire generation. So I'm really excited to go into that in my next episode. So stay tuned for that one. So with all of this information about generational trauma, what it is something that we experience on an individual level. It is something that is experienced on a collective level. We're experiencing our own generational traumas from our parents, from early childhood, from our own birth experiences, which are held in our subconscious memory. Every single lived experience from the moment that you came into existence, in the womb, is cataloged in your unconscious mind, and it is there. Your body remembers it, even if your mind does not. And we are also experiencing, beyond those personal generational traumas that affect the entire collective. And by this, I mean, we're talking natural disasters, we're talking genocide, we're talking traumatic incidents that happened to nationalities, to ethnicities, to groups of people. All of this history is stored in our DNA. It is a part of us. Everything that happened to our ancestors has been written into that code. So how do we heal? How do we shed our generational trauma so that we can begin to envision and create a world in which more love is experienced, more joy is experienced, more harmony is occurring within the body, and in which we are more or less able to access enlightenment within our lifetime? First of all, the physical body cannot be overlooked. You cannot just bypass things that have gone wrong within the physical body. You can't just think your way out of it. You have to really start to drop into your body and connect with your body. And as a health practitioner, part of what I do is functional lab testing that reveals what your hormones are doing so that we can give them support based on specifically what they're doing that is unique to your body. And I give them holistic support through lifestyle, through diet, through supplementation, and through herbal medicine. And some of the other labs that I run that are very important look at aspects of the immune system, like reactivity to specific foods and chemicals, as well as looking into the gut microbiome and seeing exactly what you have in or out of balance, if you have any pathogens, parasites, overgrowths of bacteria that should be gotten under control. And I take all of this information and I put together a very clear, very scientific picture of what's currently happening in your body so that you don't have to guess. You don't end up targeting the wrong hormones, or you don't end up taking the wrong supplements and just going around and around trying to figure things out. So addressing the physical body in this way is extremely powerful for healing generational trauma, because you are physiologically addressing things that have been impacted by all of your upbringing, all of your learned stress responses. Beyond that, beginning to rewire the nervous system is very important, so that your body can begin to relearn how to return to safety after these stress responses have occurred. A long time ago, our bodies would return to what is called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest aspect of the nervous system. This is where you're digesting your food, your body, your mind is relaxed, and you are able to repair muscle and tissue. But at some point along history, our bodies began to forget how to return to that state once the stress has occurred. And this is because in our modern world, we have begun dealing with what's called chronic stressors. And we are dealing with existential stress. We are inundated with information from the news. We are inundated with stress from our jobs, from expectations that are placed on us, from all of the things that are required to upkeep a household, paying bills, putting gas in the tank. So chronic stress has really begun to affect us as a civilization in ways that it hasn't historically. And because of that, it's really important more now than ever that we drop into our bodies through practices such as somatic meditation and somatic breath work to reconnect with our nervous system, reconnect with our organs and our cells, and reteach them how to be in harmony with each other. So meditation is an extremely powerful tool, and I especially love healing frequencies. You can find them on YouTube. There are so many different channels. You can just look up like 432 hertz, 369 hertz. Just type in healing frequencies and you'll get a plethora of options. And when you listen to these healing frequencies, I prefer to do it with headphones that go over the ears for the maximum effect. Your brainwaves actually shift into alpha, theta, and delta brainwaves, which through this experience, your body is able to drop into a deep state of relaxation. And as you begin to practice this more regularly, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes a day, your nervous system will begin to grow new roots, branch out, and develop new pathways that will enable you to return to a place of safety, a place of rest, more quickly after you have faced moments of stress. By doing this work, you are truly becoming the master of your own body. You are regaining autonomy over how you respond to life. And there truly is no greater liberation and no greater power when everything external is so beyond your control, and the only thing that is truly within your control is your response. And this brings me to the concept of radical responsibility. When it comes to our healing physically, mentally, and emotionally, we cannot bypass radical responsibility. We cannot continue to place blame on things that are happening outside of us, that are preventing us from doing the inner work, that are preventing us from healing, because truly the only thing preventing us is our own actions. So if you find that you're stuck in a cycle of placing the blame on your spouse, on your coworkers, or just on your life in general, if you feel like you're a victim of your life, that your life is conspiring against you, that the world is conspiring against you, you will not be able to break free of your own generational trauma. You will not be able to regain autonomy. All of the responsibility must be internalized. You must release any blame that you're putting on others, especially blame that you are putting on your parents. Your parents may have done terrible things. They may have caused severe ruptures in your relationship. However, it is not their responsibility once you've become an adult to change so that you can heal. You are the one who must take responsibility for your own healing despite everything that has happened. Because as long as you say, well, I can't forgive my parents, it's their fault, it's they did this to me, they screwed me up, they messed up my emotions, and now I'm all screwed up because of mom, or I'm all screwed up because of dad, you're giving your power away. So this is a really important aspect, is truly embracing forgiveness. You don't have to go to your mother and father and actually verbally forgive them if you don't want to. You can. But more importantly, you need to be able to release this energy within yourself. And so you must be able to access forgiveness and understanding that is beyond the ego, because the ego wants to blame. It does not want to accept responsibility. And the ego really wants to make it all about you, all about the ego. So it can be very difficult for the ego to let go of placing the responsibility of your well-being and your healing outside of yourself. So seeing past the ego, you can begin to really understand that whoever your parents came to be is a direct result of everything that happened around them, everything that came before them, everything their parents did to them, and everything their parents' parents did to their parents. And the fault that your parents experienced was in not understanding or knowing how to access their own healing within themselves before they brought you into the world. So knowing how difficult this is to access this healing, to truly look inward and face yourself, and knowing that you are doing this now, we can forgive our parents for their forthcomings. We can forgive them for who they became based on what happened to them. And instead of projecting responsibility onto them for our own healing, we can really internalize our own self-responsibility and move forward with our own healing, free from those restraints. And another really important thing to do is to stop giving our power away to those things that are occurring externally, things that are happening in the economy, things that are happening in politics, things that are happening around the world. There is so much chronic stress being blasted across our collective currently, especially within the last few years. But truly, if you look back, it has been a constant, steady stream of chronic stress from the quote-unquote state of the world for really as far back as I can remember. I mean, just looking back to 9/11 and then the housing crisis, it just goes on and on. Before that, the Cold War, and then most recently we've experienced things like COVID, and we're looking at, we have crazy political parties battling each other and really fueling hate against one another. And if you wake up every morning and you read the news and you feel feelings of anger, sadness, hopelessness, helplessness, doom, these are all emotions that are associated with lower vibrations. These are the vibrations of fear, the vibrations of anxiety and worry. And these are the vibrations that will keep your body in a stressed out state. They will keep your body in a state where things are not in harmony. They will keep your immune system suppressed. They will keep your digestion suppressed. And if you continue to allow these things to cause these overwhelming feelings within you, however tragic or bad they may seem, if you allow this enormous fear response to come in on a regular basis, you are just handing your power off to those entities. You are handing your power off to all of those ideologies, and you are releasing your autonomy over your ability to experience your life with any joy, with any peace. You are handing away your health, your well-being, your mental health, your emotional intelligence. So one really important aspect to healing from generational trauma, which can be very, very challenging for people, is essentially unplugging yourself from the matrix. And when I say the matrix, I'm referring to everything that the subconscious has created that is causing disarray, disharmony, war, anger, frustration on a global scale, because we are all connected in the quantum realm, in a sort of different dimension. We are all connected on this plane of consciousness, even to our enemies. And collectively, we are projecting and creating this reality together. So the best thing that you can do for the collective is to unplug yourself from feeding into all of these fears and plug yourself back into yourself, plug yourself back into the earth, plug yourself back into the frequencies of love, the frequencies of joy, the frequencies of harmony within yourself in relation to the people around you, your loved ones, your spouse, your children, and the environment around you, connecting with nature, getting your bare feet on the ground so that you can really have a cellular interaction with Mother Earth. This is a really important part of the process. I put together this 6-week mastermind, Sacred Mother Mastermind, because I wanted to create something that I wasn't seeing being offered anywhere else. I wanted to really marry this emotional and spiritual healing with the scientific aspect of really looking at the hormones and beginning to address any unique hormone imbalances that are lying within the body. And I wanted to do this so that we can collectively begin breaking the cycle of generational trauma one woman at a time. And this is created for women who may be becoming mothers very soon, who are considering conceiving and entering that stage of their lives within the next few years or imminently. But I've also created this for women who may not want to become mothers, but still want to do this work on themselves so that they can have a positive impact on their lives, in their home lives, in their personal lives, and begin to radiate out this love and healing energy to those that are in their immediate vicinity. I'm so excited to run this program in August. It will have a few different moving elements to it. There will be a few workshops such as the anatomy of generational trauma, healing your divine feminine energy and taming your divine masculine energy. I will be talking about holistic ways to support your body through a functional health perspective. And I will also be inviting the women in this very intimate group into a few somatic breathwork and meditation sessions that will be short and accessible, just enough to really start to begin to retrain your nervous system to finding that place of safety. as well as some inner child self-healing inquiry sessions modeled after the work of Byron Katie, where we will, in a group coaching session, begin to explore a form of very gentle self-inquiry to invite the inner child to emerge and ask what the inner child needs to say, what needs to be heard, what needs to be seen, so that another layer of generational trauma can be peeled away and healed. And to address the hormones, I will be running a Dutch hormone test on all the girls, all the women who join this program. And this Dutch hormone test is truly the pinnacle of hormone testing in today's market. In most hormone tests, we look at the sex hormones and the stress hormones, but in the Dutch hormone test, we also look at all the hormone metabolites, so you can see all the detoxification pathways and where any stagnation or stagnation or breakdown may be occurring within this detox pathway. And in addition to that, it also gives us a look at an entire panel of organic acids, which gives us an impression of things like B6, B12, neurotransmitters, neuroinflammatory markers, gut dysbiosis markers, and quite a few more. So I'm really looking forward to this program, and applications are still open. You can fill out an application at my website, vitalenergy.love. There is a page for a Sacred Mother Mastermind, and you'll see the application is there. Generational trauma is something that we are all dealing with to some degree or another. And it's a really important component when it comes to healing from chronic disease, when it comes to preventing chronic disease. And facilitating this healing is something that I'm extremely, extremely passionate about. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode of Vital Energy Podcast, and keep an eye out for episode number 3, where we will be going into birth trauma. Thank you for tuning in to Vital Energy Podcast. Applications for Sacred Mother Mastermind, which begins August 14th, are available at my website, vitalenergy.love.